You're on.
Excellent. Well, good evening, school board members and residents of Litchfield. Today is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2021, and we're holding the meeting both live and with some remote participants. So this is Mike Jetty, Superintendent of Schools, and this is the one opportunity I have to call the meeting to order. And now I'll ask you to please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all. Excellent. And we reviewed the agenda this afternoon. There are no revisions to it. So I'm going to launch right into our school board reorganization. I want to welcome Heidi Ames as our newly elected school board member. And she is replacing Rob Myers, who elected not to run. And also Liz McDonald, who is not with us this evening, but Liz was reelected to her seat and will be returning for a 3-year term. So congratulations to both Liz and to Heidi as our new board member.
Thank you.
At this point, I am opening the floor to nominations for chair of the school board. I'll entertain those nominations. I need a motion and a second. And then once we've received all the nominations that are coming in, we will take a vote and select our chair. And then I'll turn this meeting right over to the new chair, who will proceed with the rest of the agenda. So, are there any nominations for board chair for the following board?
This is Heidi. I'd like to nominate Christina Harrison as board chair.
So that's a nomination from Heidi for Christina Harrison. Is there a second for Tina's nomination?
I'll second. Thank you. I accept
Terrace.
the nomination.
What's that?
I accept the nomination.
Tara seconded.
Okay. Liz said she's on the
Second from
phone.
Tara. Thank you,
Oh, Liz
Gloria.
is on
You
the phone?
promptly didn't hear it.
Hmm.
So we have a nomination and a second for Tina Harrison to be the board chair. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. So all in favor of electing Tina Harrison as the chair of the Litchfield School Board, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed?
Aye.
Liz just texted me and said she was on the phone. I don't know if she had a nomination, but I want to make sure that she said she's in the Google Meet on the phone. It's not on that?
She's not in the meet in here. Tina's saying she just heard from Liz that she was on the phone in the meet, but I don't see
She said she's on the phone Google Meet.
the phone Google Meet, but I don't see, usually we would see that presence on the screen.
Okay.
So she might, is she in the
Is
correct
For
link?
that?
Is she on a
Bear
room
with
to
me 1
admit?
second. I just want to double check the
Yeah, I
public
don't want to leave
meet,
her out.
She's going to double check the public meet.
which I have not opened yet. Bear with me, because if she's in the other location, that would be helpful.
She doesn't have a camera on her laptop.
Okay.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Does she want me to just call one of us?
Right. Let me see.
Can we put her on one of our cell phones? And I mean, does it have to be official?
I don't know.
We did that once before. I
Yeah.
think you lost the meet and I called you.
Okay.
Bear with me, I'm now logged out of the other
Okay.
meet, so I'm trying to get myself in.
All right. I don't mind putting her on speaker if she's able to talk.
I'm calling it.
You're calling her?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Hello? So,
I was able to log
Yeah.
into the public link, and there is nobody here.
we're in the process of
So I'm
waiting for
going
you.
to actually log back out of that, and I will check back in. So I don't know where Liz is, because we have this meet
Yeah.
and we have the public meet. Those are the only two links. So
Brian's currently on the phone with her.
Hold on, you gotta say it in the speaker, I think.
Hmm.
Make she say into this.
Can you,
Can
is
you
she on
put it on
speakerphone?
speaker?
Yeah?
Nay, sound like a horse.
Yeah. And I'm
Okay,
gonna leave
so-
it on my phone
Oh,
for
you
now.
made it.
Okay,
All
so
right, I
the
tried to join all the different ways.
Yeah.
the vote is 3-2 in favor.
Tina. So we have a 3-2 vote, and Tina Harrison is elected as the board chair. Congratulations, Tina. I'm
Congratulations.
happily turning this over to you because that was a chaotic 5 minutes of board chair this year. So
It wasn't
it's yours, Tina. Congratulations.
that. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I guess we'll go on to nominations for vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I can't hear anything.
Okay.
They're asking for nominations for vice chair.
Sorry. Do you have your phone muted? Maybe that is it. I don't know. I don't know.
Can you hear now?
Yeah,
There you go.
Uh,
So Tina just asked for nominations for vice
I
chair.
nominate Brian Burke for vice chair.
I'll second that.
Liz nominated Brian for vice chair. Tara second. And,
Any discussion? All right. All in favor of Brian Bork as vice chair, say aye.
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 All opposed? No. Anyone abstain? All right. Thank you, Brian,
Thank
for
you.
taking the role of vice chair.
Well, this is good. I can hear Tina perfectly.
Excellent.
Please pass that.
Are you saying she's loud?
I need signatures
Nope,
of all the board
perfect.
members
Excellent.
on both of those.
I'm glad I brought my charger.
What's next? I'm sorry. The school board.
board
The
signatures.
code of
Signatures?
ethics and code of conduct has to be signed by the board members.
Okay. So we have the code of ethics and code of conduct. Were there any questions on the code of ethics or code of conduct before we all sign it?
No.
Okay. Then I will pass this around. Liz, we'll save it for you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna say the manifest for you too, Liz.
Great. My hand's fine.
All right. Let me just sign this. That will bring us down to committee assignments. I know we've kind of discussed, who has done things in the past, and I think it's a matter of, what your strengths are and what your interests are, and the time commitment for each one. Some of them have been a large time commitment, and some of them have not met in a few years. So I wonder if we need to go through and discuss some of the committees that are no longer meeting or active. And I thought we'd just go down the list and see if there are any volunteers for the committees, or if Brian or if anybody else has an idea of who would be well suited for each position. So budget committee. I know, Tara, you had commented that you would
I
be,
expressed an interest in it, but
Mhm.
if somebody else has an interest, I just would like to be on a committee that meets regularly. That's my primary. I just would like to be involved
Yeah.
more than, more than once or twice a month through school board meetings. So,
Agreed.
agreed. I also am interested in doing budget committee again this year. I think there's still some work to be done on improving communication and collaboration with the budget committee, and I would like to move forward with that this year. Unless anyone else is interested, or are you still interested in it, Tara? Or
well, I am, but I'm still on for another year. So after this, for sure. So there might be another year. So
okay. Did you have any interest, Brian?
No, in full disclosure, Jen put her name in for the open seat.
Oh, great.
So
Okay.
rather than having more of a conflict.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Well, I don't mind coming back to that one, Tara, if there are other committees that you're interested in. I know you had expressed some interest. I don't want to volunteer for everything.
I'm curious which ones are not meeting anymore. Can
Yeah,
we maybe
maybe
run
we wanna
through
eliminate
that
those first?
whole
Sure.
list.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So as far as I know, we haven't had a technology committee until that was more, I think, setting up the one-to-one program in its early days. Is that in the technology infrastructure? You would probably know better than I, Brian.
Yeah. I don't think they met for like more than a year.
Okay, so I think we can take that one off the list.
But in can I
I would-
just
I would
a
think maybe with
thought?
the integrator though, they might be meeting more.
I was gonna say the
Yeah.
same thing with the tech integrator coming on board. Is the tech committee something that would be useful in working towards how that role is gonna work?
Potentially, I don't know that that's a role of that we need a school board member on that committee, though. I mean, we have the 3 people in IT. They have a really good handle on what we have, the infrastructure, the networking, and all that.
Did Bill
Security.
mention that Jason's going to be on?
Oh, did he?
I thought he did at the beginning.
I think he said Josh is coming on.
Oh,
Josh,
Josh. I'm
yeah,
sorry. All right.
yeah.
No, I think he's on.
And Josh is
Yeah,
on.
Josh is there. But does Mike have any input into that?
Do you have any thoughts on that, Mike? Tech committee?
I really don't. I think we should probably double back to Jason and just ask
Okay.
for the value of that committee. In the time period that I've been here, I haven't seen a lot of activity with the committee.
Mhm.
It's been more driven by the directors and so forth. But
Okay. Facilities improvement, that is a big one this year with LMS renovations and GMS coming up.
I'd like to do that one.
You'd like to do that one, Brian? Okay.
Got along with capital planning for the town, that we meet quarterly.
You still meet with them? Okay, good.
You can have that as far as I'm concerned. You're doing a good job.
Yeah. Is there any other interest in that one? Is Liz still there?
Liz, you still on?
I'm still here.
All right.
Okay.
I have no interest.
All right, I wouldn't mind staying on that one just because, we're kind of I'm kind of knee deep in it.
Is there 2?
Yes.
We've had 2 so far. Yeah. Do you think we still need 2?
That's 2.
2? All right.
Kind of a big committee, especially if we're
Can't
looking
have
2
3.
years
It's a
ahead.
quorum.
Oh, right,
Right.
right. Okay. Joint loss. That was Liz's.
That one I'm on now, and they just set up a meeting for next week. I don't mind staying on that at all. If anybody else wants it, that's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna be ramping that one back up.
Okay.
Their meeting is on March 24th at 3:15.
Okay. Great. School start time.
I was interested in that one. I had actually been asked to be on it as a parent when it first started, I think about 18 months ago, but COVID hit and I don't think it got off the ground. It just hasn't started yet, but I'm definitely interested in that one.
Okay. Anyone else on that one? That one I could tie in pretty closely with negotiations too.
Oh, yeah.
As we look at the school day and,
Yeah.
and things like that, instruction time.
Yep.
Okay. Wellness.
I'm still interested in that, but I feel like it needs to be re-envisioned and
Okay.
it needs to have a district or a school leader
Mhm.
who wants to meet,
Okay.
But
Who's on it right now?
I think it's Lauren. But 2 years ago she was new and we
Yeah.
entered the pandemic this year. So,
Are any of the nurses on it?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry. Oh,
And I
who's
think
on it?
Mrs.
We had a
Rosati
good
used
group
to
when
be.
we met that one time last year.
Mhm.
But even at its max, I think we were talking about meeting 3 times a year. So it still doesn't need a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know whether.
It probably could. I mean, really,
I mean, I think
considering what we're going
There's
through right
certainly
now.
a need for it. And I think
Yeah.
with a re-envisioned purpose, it could be a really great committee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I could really do a lot for the district.
Yeah.
All right. So you're still interested in that one, Tara?
yeah.
All right. Then we have LEA negotiations.
You skipped perk.
I did?
Yep.
Oh, I did.
And that one meets.
That one does meet. That one meets about once a month.
I think Liz said she was
Liz
interested in
has
that.
Liz, are you interested in perk?
I would like to do perk.
You got it. Unless anybody else wants to duke her out for it.
Nope.
All right. And then,
But what about the grading and competency committee? Because I know it started off, everybody thought it was just a school-based committee,
mhm,
but where it's being reported at the board level by a board member, I believe
Mhm.
that makes it a board committee.
yeah, I don't have a problem making it a board committee if that is part of our role as a board. you know,
In the beginning, we made it clear that I was simply a parent member on the committee. So that's why I didn't think it was a board committee, but it's up to,
okay.
I guess, you whether or not you want to.
Any thoughts on that?
It's up to the board. I just thought I'd bring it
Yeah.
up just in case.
Mike, do you think we need a school board rep on the grading and reporting committee?
As smoothly as it's going.
Yeah, maybe it's
That one I'm going to
better.
actually defer to Mary also. I mean, Mary's
Yeah.
the one who sort of drives that meeting.
Mhm.
And have we had a board rep on there?
Tara's been attending as a parent.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Tara has been attending, but as a parent, not as a school
Okay.
board member. But she has, reported back to the board on.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the type of topic, if we look at this past fall, when an issue does bubble up, certainly having board awareness of the work that's going on would be helpful. So that if an issue came from either the parent realm, the teacher realm, the board has an awareness of what the work and effort has been. So it kind of makes some sense in my mind.
Yeah, I
But
would
we
agree
can
with
check
that.
in with Mary. As we're going through this list, I'm feeling like revisiting this with our team of directors and our admin team, just to make sure that we understand, what each committee does and how frequently they meet and so forth.
Mhm.
So it's almost like a chance to regroup around the committee structure.
Okay. All right, so I guess we'll wait for Mary to report, for you to check in with Mary on that one.
We can do that, or we can appoint somebody and just plug ahead. I think whichever route the board
Okay.
wants to go.
Any other thoughts?
I can tell you that when I attend the meetings, I'm really speaking from a parent I feel like I'm speaking from a parent perspective. I do understand what Mike is saying about, when issues bubble up. But, that's
Okay.
that's my take on when I'm attending them.
Okay. I do agree with Mike that it's good to have a board perspective, to have somebody who has been part of that process to fill us in on what's going on,
But as a board member, not as a parent,
but as a board member. Yeah,
especially with, like I said, I mean, the issues we're having right now as far as the gradings.
right. All right. If you feel comfortable attending as a board member,
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Mhm.
to go ahead and make that. Okay. I'm happy with that. Okay. And then we have negotiations, 2 contracts this year. We have LEA and LSSA support staff.
I would love to do LEA.
Okay. LEA, Brian?
Are there 2 for LEA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I would
2
also,
for each.
I would like to do LEA as well.
Okay.
We'll do LSSA.
Okay.
Here.
Liz, are you interested in LSSA?
Sure.
Okay. Liz and Tara. I think those are some good, strong teams. And of course, I think it will be very important that together as a board, we set our expectations and what our priorities are and what outcomes we hope to achieve through that process. So I think that's we have to go bounce back to budget
So
committee.
you can have budget,
Okay.
especially if that's the only one that you want to do. So.
It is. And if you're,
Right.
if you're doing negotiations,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
regularly.
Yeah.
So, all right, then I'll do budget. How do we feel about do we feel like it's a pretty even distribution? Is everybody happy with the
Seems to
town?
be
I'm fine.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When it comes to the committee work, do we, as a group, talk about each individual committee and come up with ideas or report back, or how does that work? For example,
Mhm.
I'm not on facilities, but I would be very interested in the trajectory of what's happening with the improvements and with GMS. I'm not necessarily on that committee,
Right.
but I would love to have input. So do I
Mhm.
talk to you directly? Does that come up during a meeting? How does that work?
Usually during a meeting, we have committee reports.
Okay.
So if you've been to a meeting, you would report back on what occurred at that meeting and just keep everybody posted
Perfect.
on
But if you
things.
do have some ideas before going into a meeting, then just share them. I would say just share them with,
Yeah.
through the chair,
Okay.
who can then funnel them to whoever they go to.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Heidi, I think one thing too, like with negotiations, there are two board members there, but they need to know, have kind of parameters set by the full board. They have to
Absolutely.
know what the tolerance level is from the full board in order to be able to successfully negotiate within. So we'll have all those conversations to make sure that board members understand where the full board is, because ultimately that's where the vote has to land. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Because the one time you're acting as a full board, but you're actually not a quorum.
Correct. Awesome.
Good question. Keep asking them. All right, we have a summary of non-public actions from March 3rd, 2021. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to approve February 17th, 2021 non-public minutes. Mr. Meyer seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mr. Burke made a motion to accept the resignation. Is that a resignation or retirement?
It has to be reflected as a resignation.
Okay, all of them? Okay. To accept the resignation of Kathleen Oaks, CHS special education teacher. Mrs. McDonald seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mr. Burke made a motion to accept the resignation of Susan Seabrook, GMS nurse. Mrs. Hirschberger seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mr. Burke made a motion to accept the resignation of Margaret Sawicki, GMS special education teacher. Mrs. McDonald seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mr. Burke made a motion to accept the renominations of school and district staff for the 2021-22 school year as presented. Mrs. Hirschberger seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. And that brings us down to presentations and recognitions. We have a CHS baseball fundraiser proposal.
Yep, and if I can just introduce, we have with us tonight Principal Lonergan and Athletic Director Knight. There is a proposal from the baseball team for a fundraiser. I know you've read the proposal in advance. It doesn't specifically state the purpose of the fundraising, so we want to make sure that everybody on the board understands that there is a goal where the fundraising is going to take place, and that students who are, if they're out and about the community, they ought to be able to answer the question why they're raising funds. So let the high school take it away.
Go ahead, Josh. I'll let you lead on this, okay?
Right, yeah. So basically what we're trying to do is long-term effects, save money on the baseball, save money on the field, save money on maintenance. So we'd like to get a turtle shell, which is essentially a batting practice dome that goes behind the kids. So any foul ball stays on the field, anything that is behind the batting practice is going to stay safe. So we're practicing on the field adjacent, cars in the parking lot. Everything kind of stays within the batting fields, and then they're not chasing nearly as many baseballs, and they're not going outside of the fence into the woods, and we're going to the woods trying to recover all those baseballs. So that's one thing. And the next thing down the road is, it'd be great to get some sort of indoor batting cage, so it's not affecting the flow from the cafeteria to the gym. Kids going in the gym. We have a huge batting cage set up right now in the gym, but it kind of takes up one of the corners. So it'd be nice to have something that's suspended from the ceiling, if we can, that comes right down from the ceiling onto the gym, and then all we gotta do is press a button and it goes back up. And that way, baseball, softball, we can keep that up there the whole year, so anyone that wants to come in and the gym is being used, all they gotta do is press a button and they can utilize that. So it'd be kind of a year-round type workout facility for them as well. So those are really the two big things that they're doing. It's not one of those things that you're going to get right away because it's going to take a lot of fundraising, but that's what the kids and the coaches are kind of heading towards right now.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. Thank you. Let's see. Do I have a motion to approve the proposal for the calendar fundraiser? Or
I'll make a motion to approve the baseball fundraiser.
second?
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
You have to do roll call.
Aye,
Oh, I have to do roll call because Liz is. Okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay. Let's see. Brian,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes,
Tara,
Yes.
Heidi,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Motion passes 5-0-0.
And if you want to throw us off each time, change out the names.
Ooh. Make sure you're paying
Brian
attention.
used to do.
That's an old school trick from my
Right.
teaching days. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lonergan and Mr. Knight.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Let's see, community forum. Do we have anybody on the phone or in the Google Meet, Mike?
Muted, Mike.
All right, let me switch over and see if there is anybody in the public link. So I'm going to rejoin it here. I have it open on my screen, and at this point, there is nobody else in the public meet with looking to make commentary.
Okay, thank you. We'll open that again at the end of the meeting before we go into non-public. Okay, for correspondence, that was my vice chair role. We had one email from Susan Rafferty, who is a staff member. She was concerned and asked about the New Hampshire state travel guidelines for fully vaccinated staff. She said that the New Hampshire DHHS guidelines dictate that there's no quarantine necessary if you're after 14 days after your second dose, that you're considered fully vaccinated. She urges that the school district should follow the New Hampshire guidelines according, with regards to vaccination. It's been a very long year. Many are planning to travel to see family. And so we should have a clear decision and instructions before April break on whether or not vaccination would exempt staff members from quarantining when they return from travel, or at the very least, if allowing them to work from home. And that was the email from Sue Rafferty. Did everybody receive that? Sue, Michelle, I'll forward that to you.
Tina, just a quick comment on Sue. So that email did not come through me. I don't have that communication, which is the right step to make sure that I'm also involved in that that communication with the board.
Okay.
I will also tell you that she has been posting on the Educator 603 a lot of misinformation, and I'm doing my best to try to correct her. Not quite sure why she's not coming directly to me with concerns, but I just want the board and the public to know that the information that's publicly posted on social media is not accurate, and I did not see this communication in advance, so I couldn't do anything to respond to it.
I will forward that to you, Mike, and to you, Michelle, as a record of correspondence. Yep. So, all right, let me get that off in the mail to you. Sorry. And then you can discuss that with her directly, Mike. And that brings us to superintendent comments.
I'm sorry, Tim. I'm having a little hard time hearing you.
I'm sorry. It's your turn.
You're up, Mike.
Thank you for that. So first of all,
Could do is
this
go
board and
sit
public,
over there,
I'm
'cause
still
it's
working.
pick up
Oh,
his.
yeah.
My goal was to be back in the office as quickly as I could be. Unfortunately, I cannot get rid of the cough, and when I have a coughing fit, it's a little bit on the nasty side. So the last thing you want is a hacking, coughing person in the office. So for the time being, I'm at least well enough that I'm able to get work accomplished. But you don't need me in that meeting tonight either. So here I am at home and nursing the cough and hoping to get back as soon as I can. Unfortunately, my COVID turned into a secondary pneumonia. So I think getting it to resolve is going to take a little bit longer than I certainly want. But just at the mercy of getting it cleared out at this point. So, all right. So quickly on election results, let me just run through for the public. I think people have probably seen the election results, but I want to walk it through. So for the school board, Heidi was elected with 633 votes, and then Liz had 544 votes, the second highest vote getter. And so both of them have been elected to their 3-year terms. We also want to thank Melissa and John, who ran for board seats. I think anytime you have a healthy election with interested parties, it's really just good for the community to have options and choices. So having 4 people running for 2 seats was a nice situation to be in. And again, congratulations to Heidi and Liz for being elected.
Thank you.
Article 1, which was our operating budget. As you remember, the board had not recommended the budget committee's budget because we felt that too many cuts had been made to that. However, in the end, the public did support the budget committee's recommendation and passed the budget as presented by a vote tally of 852 to 330 votes. So we have that budget to work with, and we will certainly make it work for us as the budget has handed us. For Article 2, this is the first of the 2 tech integrator questions. Both the budget committee and the school board had recommended this position. The one position passed with a score, a vote tally of 605 to 592. So it really only passed by a very slim margin, which I personally found to be surprising. I thought the case we had made for the need to have the tech integrators in the building was pretty compelling. And again, with the support of the 2 boards, I thought we would do a little bit better than we did. But a win is a win, and our job now is to design that position and to get the right person hired into it. Jason and I have already begun the conversation about how to deploy one tech integrator. And so we're starting our work around that question. As you know, the management team had recommended 3 tech integrators. The board had recommended 2 tech integrators, and the public delivered to us 1 tech integrator. So we now have to figure out the best way to deploy that staff member in order to get the biggest impact that we can for our students and staff. So we'll be working on that over the next few weeks, and we'll keep the board up to date on the progress that we make with it. Article 3, which was the second tech integrator, that failed 383 to 810. So it really was a resounding no from the public that they wanted us to have 1. I appreciate the confidence in the 1, and I think our task is to show how valuable it is and how important it is. And then if we decide to come back and ask for a second 1, perhaps in the future, that's something that we can do as a board team going forward. But we currently have just the 1. And then the other thing that I thought was a really positive display from the public was on Article 4, which was to place $100,000 into the Capital Improvement Expendable Trust Fund. We've been very clear that those are funds that we're saving up for the Griffin Elementary School project. If you remember, last year we asked for the first round of $70,000 in order to begin the planning and feasibility work. And then this is another $100,000 that will go in there. And it clearly says for new construction or renovation of existing facilities. So the public was very strong behind it, 796 to 403, which I think just speaks to where their minds are relative to the importance of the facilities work that we're undergoing. So that's the summary of our warrant articles. And I'm just curious if the board have thoughts or comments that they'd like to make about the outcome of the election.
I was disappointed in that the second tech integrator didn't pass. But I know that we'll make do with what we have, as we always do. And hopefully we can revisit that position in the future.
I think it's confusing to people too, the fact there are 2 identical warrant articles.
Mhm.
At the same time, if you look how the first one passed by 12 votes,
It wasn't very much.
that we're probably better off that we did split them up, because if we asked for 2 of them, I don't think it would have passed.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
There's always next year.
Brian, I think that's a really good reminder for us that we had the option of presenting 2 in 1 warrant article, and we felt it was better to present to the public the 2 questions. So, tech integrator number 1 followed by tech integrator number 2. And I think you're right. There's a potential we would have ended up with 0 if we hadn't staggered it in the way that we did. So I do appreciate the board's thinking and really providing the public with options. that they were able to weigh in twice instead of just once. So I think that was good planning on behalf of everybody who was involved in structuring that.
And I think if we're going to go for another one next year, which most likely we will, I think it's going to be really important to track the progress and everything gets completed by one tech integrator. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different job because it's one possibly being stretched to 3 schools. But I think it's going to be important to show the public exactly what the tech integrator has done and helped in the schools.
I agree.
Excellent. I'm going to move on to the board meeting calendar, if that's okay.
Yep.
So the board meeting calendar is presented to the board. Our meeting calendar is established through this school year. So this is the one that will take effect starting in July. We plan to keep the same structure that we followed in the past. So one meeting in July. We currently have it on July 14th. I would ask individual board members to take a look at your vacation plans, if you have any for the summer, because we could easily hold it, on the 7th, although that's the week of the 4th, so that might actually be a tougher week. We could also bump it back to the 21st and be okay. But our strategy in July is to try to have one meeting for the month. So if there are folks, as you look at your summer calendars, if you have a preference on moving it, we'll revisit this again next meeting. So please let us know that. And then for the rest of the year, it's the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays. I think we've fallen into 5 o'clock as a preferred meeting time. And if we're able to maintain that, we'll certainly do that also. A few other features that you see here, we have penciled in Saturday, the 16th of October. We really need to debrief and think about our budget presentation format. But in the past, we have had that Saturday reserved, so we just wanted to park that as a potential day. As you know, this year we did not follow that Saturday, and it had some sort of mixed reviews. But I think we can have a discussion about the best way to proceed for budget in October. You'll also notice that there are Saturday the 5th of February is reserved for the deliberative session, so we want to make sure that people hang on to that date. And then Tuesday, March 8th is the election day. And somebody will be running next year, or a few people. So we want to make sure that that date also stays on the board's calendar. So that's what we have as a proposed date. Michelle, am I correct? We do not need action on it at this point. I think it's really.
No, it's right. It's just to get them familiar with the dates. They can review it and get back to us with any recommendations or changes.
Okay. Something else that I was thinking about adding to the calendar, if the board agrees, is having an additional goal setting session and a kind of like a board retreat where we would get together and discuss our goals for negotiations for for all of those committees that we are serving on, and what kind of outcomes we want to set for ourselves this year. I mean, we have our district goals, but I think going year by year, I think it's important that we set, what kind of measures we want to take and what kind of action plans we want to put in place to see progress year over year. So, I mean, we can discuss a date for that and set something up. But if that's during the summer, or if it's when we get back to school, or if it's actually soon, so that we can start committee work over the summer, we can see how that goes.
I would be in favor of that.
I would think if you're going to do it, you want to do it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Especially where the committees are going to be meeting anyway on a regular basis.
Right. We have to get in touch with the LEA and the LSSA and see when they want to start meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. I mean, I think after this year, everybody needs some time off. But the more we can get done before the school year starts, the better, I think.
I think it's a great idea, and frankly, I'll probably treat it as a really great orientation. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Great. All right, so we can discuss that, Michelle.
Well, I mean, you could always do it like on June 30th,
Yeah.
because that's the 5th Wednesday of the month that there is no meeting.
Oh, true. Okay. Well, we'll
And this way
see.
you get a head start on your summer.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever, I mean, whatever we decide, it'll be
Oh,
published
I'm
in
on
public.
vacation that week. We are.
Hey, can you just sort of take a poll of the board if there's interest in organizing a retreat?
Yeah.
Michelle and I can kind of roll our sleeves up around picking a date and a format.
Okay.
I will tell you that in the time period that I was in Bedford, the Bedford board met twice a year in retreat. One was a financial retreat. It really was about what are the big picture budgetary initiatives that the board has. And we sort of did that late summer, early fall, just to make sure that the administrative team was in sync with where the board wanted us to head. And so that was an important part of the work that we did. And then we had done a springtime retreat, which was more of the welcoming new board members, making sure that if there were training components, the attorneys or the school board association could provide some training and experience for the board, just to kind of regroup around goal setting and things that the board wanted to get done. So it was twice a year.
Mhm.
And, part of it is the ability to really be reflective outside of a public meeting like this. It's broadcast on TV, et cetera. It's really just the opportunity. It doesn't mean the product that you come up with is in a public document. Of course it is, and it gets revealed, but the ability to have frank conversation can happen in the retreat format a little bit more readily.
Right. When we're not, trying to,
Focus time to do it.
exactly, focus time to do it, and we're not trying to conduct other business, like going through policies and things like that, so. Is anybody opposed to doing, a spring retreat and then another one as it's as a precursor to budget season?
No.
No? Is Liz still there?
And I do think it will help enormously for orientation of new folks.
Yeah.
And probably a good refresher for all of us.
Yeah. Did you have any thoughts on that, Brian?
I'm just, again, I just reiterate, I think the sooner the better.
Yeah. Okay.
Like Tyra was saying, orientation, Heidi just mentioned orientation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why are we going to wait 4 months to do it? I think the sooner the better.
Sounds good to me.
Because again, we have no idea either, like LEA and LSS, if they want to start early or not.
Right.
But I mean, if they don't, that's fine. We can have other conversations when we get closer to that. But all your other committees are meeting.
Right. Okay. Is Liz still with us?
No, she asked me to call her back after robotics.
Okay. I'm going to assume she's okay with moving forward with the retreat idea. Okay. So Mike, yeah, would you, if you and Michelle would roll up your sleeves and kind of pick some dates in a format, that would be great. We can get that ball rolling.
We'll come back to the board at the next meeting with a little bit firmer outline. Michelle will help me to know the history of retreats in Litchfield. And if we're starting a new tradition, and it's a good new tradition, then that's a positive step too. So we'll figure it out.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, and I'm not sure if Bill is still with us. Bill dropped off. So, but I think he and I talked the other day, so we should be on the same page. What I'm proposing is that we set the graduation date and get that information out to our families. Because of the MOA that we signed with the association this year, we've not had any snow day events, right? We've been able to have school each day with remote learning. So in looking at the calendar link, the 180th day is June 17th, and it hasn't moved. And so I would propose that the high school be able to plan their graduation for Friday, June 11th. That is beyond the 175th day that's required for seniors to attend. I will tell you, in talking with Bill, his inclination is to follow a very similar format to last year with the family-based boxes on the field, and to sort of follow that format through. We have to remember that although our staff are getting access to vaccines, students are not, and families are going to be in a various state of flux as to what their own access to a vaccine is based on their own personal health situation. So our feeling is to plan the outdoor ceremony on the field with family-based boxes to be held on Friday, June 11th.
All right. Do you need an approval from the board?
We do. I think we traditionally, Michelle, am I correct that we get a vote setting
Yes.
that date?
Okay.
Mike, can I just ask one question beforehand? with the shortened day, with all the shortened days on Wednesdays, will the 11th get the seniors to meet the requirements by the state of the month? Because I know with
It
them,
will. What school districts are doing this year, Brian, we're not the only district that's having the shortened release time. I mean, I can tell you my own.
well, we go by
district,
days anyway. So.
They shortened first of all, they're hybrid. The kids are only going to school 2 days a week. And when they attend, it's an hour shorter each day. So
Right.
I think at this point, the state recognizes that everybody is making it work to the best of the local conditions. And I can guarantee there won't be any DOE police showing up to revoke diplomas on June 11th. We'll be in good shape.
Similar to last year. I make a motion to make June 11th, 2021 graduation day for CHS.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you need to?
Oh,
roll
I need
call?
to roll call.
Although she's not.
Is Liz in?
Liz isn't here.
Okay, so,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? Abstain? All right, so that motion passes 400.
So while we're on graduations, we have a date for LMS.
Yeah.
Tom and I have not discussed that yet. So
Typically, I don't know if I need.
the only thing we have talked about is not doing it in a hot, sweaty gym.
Typically, typically ours is the day before the last day,
Right.
and we anticipate doing something actually similar to Campbell, so that there's distancing outside. We don't see any reason why we can't do something similar to that. So
And
Thinking about doing it at Campbell or? at
not
LMS?
that I'm not sure. I think probably for a lot of reasons it's probably easier to do it at Campbell, honestly, because our parking situation is a nightmare. For an event like that, I think it's probably in our best, especially this year, in our
Yeah.
best interest. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, it's framing it as welcome,
Yeah.
moving up instead of goodbye.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And it's still early on, but for the GMS for fourth grade recognition day, I would love to see something similar as well. And if it could be built off of the same setup that LMS does, because they're around the same time period, I would love to see that for the kids.
Hey, you have 2 graduates this year, right?
I do, 4th and 8th.
Yeah.
I do.
Tara, are your boys in
Okay.
8th this year?
Great. Yeah.
Brian, you have Jack? Wow.
We're going big this year.
Milestones.
Going
And then
big.
Liz has Tommy, right? Tommy's graduating?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm the only one without a graduate. Okay.
Just a quick reminder, and Brian, I appreciate you bringing it up. The preference is to have it at the home school. So a student who is finishing up at the middle school, having a recognition ceremony at the middle school makes sense. The problem that we have is our parking situation at the middle school is it gets overrun. And honestly, if there were an emergency to occur and we needed to have EMS come in to help out parent or grandparent or what have you, there's no way you could get EMS on site. It would just be an absolute nightmare. So, and a similar thing at GMS. I mean, when those events are held, the parking lot quickly gets overwhelmed and people are stacked up and down 3A. So the practical reality is that our real estate, where we can successfully run something, is at CHS. The parking lot's the largest. You're way off street parking. You're not worried about overrunning that. I've never seen a parking problem at the graduation ceremony. So, it's an unfortunate transfer that we just need to make until we can, potentially end up in a different scenario with parking and entryways and so forth. But not preferred, not ideal, but kind of like what we have to do, I guess.
And then Mike, you have a text messaging update?
Yep. And so the question had come up about text messaging. So let me just explain to the board that we have the ability within our student information system. So Power School has text messaging embedded into it. And as we've been rolling features out, text messaging was actually something that we could have rolled out a little bit sooner. I lost track of that feature, but I want to explain to the board a couple of things, and to the public that text messaging will be coming very quickly. So basically with text messaging, our staff who are sending a message out will be limited to 160 characters. So there's kind of a training component that we need to do because a principal can send an email or a voicemail, a phone message that has a lot of details, and there seems not to be a lot of limitations on those types of communication. Text messaging is really the quick blurb. You're limited to those 160 characters. It's like sending a tweet. You got to be tight and concise with the information that you get out. So there's a training component that we just need to make sure that we're all on board with. The second thing is that because you are using people's cell phone numbers, there are FCC requirements that we have to follow. And basically the rollout of it is going to look something like this. There'll be a communication that goes to families. It'll say at, this time on this date, you're going to get a text message from the following number. And basically it's going to ask you to opt into texting. And so the thing families have to understand is if you say yes, now we're able to communicate with you through texting. Anybody who ignores that message or replies no will not get any text messages that we send. So it may not have the same level of reliability depending upon families opting in or out or accidentally opting in and out. That's the other concern I have. So we're going to do the best messaging we can to make sure that people understand if you want text messages from the school, you have to reply yes to opt in, and then we'll be able to initiate text messaging with families after that. So, and then the other thing is I believe it's an annual opt-in. That hasn't been done.
Surprising.
So again, if you're using somebody's cell number, you can't just be spamming them with information. You need to really get their permission and make sure they understand that that's how the school will be using that. If all goes well, I would say by the end of the month, we'll have created that message, sent that out, and initiated text messaging with our families. So it's coming. And then it'll be one more tool that we have in our belt for getting quick information out to our families.
So, Mike, this is intended for administrators and you to use for families. Is this going to affect students at all? Are teachers going to be texting students, sending messages out that way? Or is this?
You know what? Let me dig into that because I'm not quite sure. I've envisioned it as kind of the emergency communication that we make. But I'm wondering if staff have access to texting also. That's a great question. I'm just not clear. We'll have to get an answer to it.
All right. Thank you.
Be careful of our policy too.
Absolutely. So I had two questions. First of all, when you're texting, can you also include a link to a document? Like, if there's an announcement, can you say,
Check your email.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well, yeah. Or like if it's, I don't know, I'm just thinking of Dan's blog, please, we have an important announcement regarding whatever. And then, here's the link to the info. Is that, if that's possible, that expands the use of it potentially.
What's the difference between sending a text and an email?
The text, well,
Some people
I only check my
respond to
email
text.
once a day, pretty much.
All right.
But if it's a time, like,
And you check
I
the
think we
text all the
probably
time?
should set some usage around what the text message, why we're using text. And for me, it's really timely pieces of information. Think about weather delays. Somebody who may not want to receive a phone call at 5 a.m. Could perhaps turn off that option and instead opt for a text message and would receive that information and get to see it when they, when they wake up, if it's before school, There was an occasion recently, and I don't even remember why, but I think I was the one who emailed about the text messages, and I don't remember why.
Because you didn't see the email.
Because I didn't see the email. Exactly. Because I don't text, I don't check. I get so much. I have multiple emails, and I check them at night. That's it. Okay. So my second question is, how do people update their own contact information? I thought at one point I went on a website and was able to update my own contact information. I don't think it's through PowerSchool. I just checked it. But if there's a way for people to update their own phone numbers, there might also be a way for them to click that opt-in I agree to receive text messages and it might supplement the other effort,
So I think the opportunity to edit their information comes from that initial enrollment piece, which we're now doing with our new enrollees. So the kindergartners who are registering or first graders who are registering, the families are able to log in and enter their information in.
Okay.
Starting next fall, there'll be an email that goes out to all families where you will verify your
Oh, I
information.
see.
into the
Okay.
system.
So
I
it'll,
don't know that it's live to
Okay.
be done at any time during the year. I have to double check that, Tara, because I'm unclear on whether somebody can just initiate that on their own. I do know that when a family responds to the enrollment question, it ends up going to a staff member for verification. So they sort of can take a look at it, just make sure the information that's been updated is valid. So
Okay.
that is a feature that's available within our school.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Any other questions for Mike? No? School board comments?
I'll start. I know at the beginning we kind of were thanking people, but I'd like to just publicly congratulate Heidi Ames for her win, along with Liz. I mean, Liz was a re-election, but I think Heidi's going to be a great asset to the team.
I think so too.
Thank you.
And the other is congratulations to Tina being
Thank you.
chair. We've had a conversation before, and I'm here to support you 100%.
Great.
I think we've worked very well together, and it's just swapping seats right now and just continue doing the work. Continue doing the work that we've been doing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Like you said, it's just swapping seats. So
Yeah.
I think we make a good team. I think we've got a really strong board, which is important to have coming into the year that we're coming into. And I'm excited to work with you all. And if anything kind of came up during the election process and the interviews with the candidates and just discussions in the community, I think that communication and needs to be improved. And I think that's a huge, undertaking for our board. And it was interesting to me to see why the candidates were running and what they felt passionately about and how we can improve together as a board and make those improvements. So I'm excited to get back to work.
No, if I can, I'd just like to say thank you to those who voted for me. And even those who didn't, thank you. I look forward to representing everybody and working with you guys. I really think this has a lot of fabulous potential, and I really want to work for creating the best environment for our students. And that's what will drive every decision I make, is what is in the best interest of all of our students.
Yeah.
So I look forward to working with everybody. It's a learning curve, but so be ready for questions, but I appreciate it. You guys have already helped so much, Michelle, everybody. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great. That's why we do it. It's all about the kids.
Yeah.
Great. And that brings us to the public minutes from March 3rd, 2021. Make a motion to approve the minutes from March 3rd.
Second.
Any discussion? No? All right. All in favor of approving the minutes from March 3rd, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
You abstain.
Yep. You
I wasn't there
abstained.
for that.
All right, that motion passes 3-0-1. Now we get into, finally, thanks for bearing with us, Tom, the LMS principals report.
All right, thank you so much. I promised Robin we'd be done by 5:30. It's
Sorry,
her daughter's
Robin.
birthday today.
Oh, no.
So
Oh, it's my
thank you,
daughter's
Robin, for
birthday.
hanging in here.
Oh, it's
I was
Laura's
breaking out of the
first.
sweat over here. I know. Breaking out of sweat over here. So I'm going to jump right into our robotics theme. And one of the areas, despite all the challenges of this year, for obvious reasons, challenges that our school has just really continued to plow forward on, is the area of STEAM. It's really not just robotics, but STEAM in general, but robotics being one of the focus areas of that. And the rock star in the middle of it is Robin. She does so much. She's a cheerleader for STEAM programming. Also, Eric Momney is another huge asset to our team and has brought a whole lot of skill in this area as well. So tonight I'm not sure I think you have the slide.
Yeah, we just-
I'm going to present this on my screen and pray that it works. So let's see. I'm going to go to present. Okay. Can everybody see that? I can't see the faces, but unless I hear otherwise, I'll assume we're a go. So bunch of icons here representing some various areas of focus and resources that we use for our robotics programming, our STEAM programming, et cetera, at LMS. Just to back up for a second, and I also promised Robin this would be and Mike, that there would be no longer than 10 minutes. So I'm going to put my YouTube here on 1.5 speed. So 21st century learning, one of the focal areas of the middle school in general, education in general, is to end up as learners with these skills, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. And when you think about STEAM programming, it really hits on all of these areas. So it definitely lines up with the skills and the learning traits that we want our students to have as they go through the journey through the middle school. As I said, Robin has been a cheerleader all the way through this year and over the years, not only on the ground with students, but also just always finding resources for our school as it pertains to STEAM programming. And we've been able to secure, even this past year, a couple of large grants, relatively speaking, large grants. Robin, did you want to jump in on these as to specifics on these, or?
I can. I don't know if everybody can hear me. So we were able to get a piece of the governor's grant, which allowed us to get 4 of the brand new technology that they're going to be using for the first LEGO League challenges, as well as all of our registrations covered, which was outstanding. And then we were also informed that there was an opportunity to gain some more resources. And so myself and Mrs. Chu, who does an amazing job with me, looked at what would be really great for us to have, and we kind of shot for the moon and looked for 4 more spike kits. So we actually were able to acquire 8 spike kits, which you'll see later on in one of the slides. We took a little video clip for you of the kids. And really, mental health wise, in this time period, it's been really nice for the kids to we give them these kits, we show them some examples and say, hey, build a robot. Let's see what you can do with it. And we're able to not just use that with our kids who are on the robotics team, but we've actually explored it with some of the 6th graders and stuff like that. So it's been really a nice opportunity for kids to kind of do some things that, remind them of what school used to be like. So that's been really great.
So one of the areas, this is actually a co-curricular area, first LEGO League. You've heard a lot about that over the years. When I think back over the last 5 or 6 years, just the growth of this, the number of students that are involved in this, it's really incredible. And even this year, we've been able to do some really fun things with students. And we have a couple videos here. Robin, if you wanted to highlight anything on this, I'll go ahead and play the videos.
Yeah, these are just our kids running the table this year with the robots and trying to get some of the challenges. And, this one involves gears, which is a new thing for us to do. And, the kids were able to dump the blocks where they needed to. So that was pretty cool. They were pretty excited. They almost got it back to where they wanted it to be. So they were really close. And then this is our girls team, same thing, built their own robot, designed the attachment that they need to complete the obstacle. I think this one is Jenny, this robot is what they call it. But just the teamwork involved with these kids to communicate, to bring the pieces together, to try to stay 6 feet apart while they're still doing that collaborative work has been really nice. And then the center picture just shows some of the other robots that were built. And again, we have more and more kids getting involved in this as the spring is opening up and we're able to open some windows and get a little more space for us. So it's cool.
Okay.
And then this year, we also were able to buy a second kit, or were granted money for a second kit for the first tech challenge, which is really designed for students between 7th and 11th grade. So our kids are really young to be doing this. So our goals are really kind of basic. Can we get a robot? Can we build a robot that moves? Last year, we did this for about a month before we were shut down with COVID. So this year, this is a 7th grader. It was a team of 3 students who built the robot, and they're working at moving these little wobbles to different sections on the mat. So it's been a really neat thing. This is a tough challenge for us to do because a lot of the people that we would normally compete against would be in high school. But I think the kids are really enjoying the opportunity to work with the metal, and it falls right into what Mr. Momney does in his class. Because again, I can't say enough about collaborating with him on projects, both with the grade level students and also with the robotics club. He does an outstanding job. Both him and Claire, I could not do this without.
One of the other programs that we've been involved in as a school over the last couple of years, 3 years, Robin, is Coder Z. This is entirely a remote. Robin, why don't you? I don't want to try to.
And this year they are constantly adjusting their format, and they're a fairly new competition, new company as far as doing this. So we had 30 students participate in the fall, and this was perfect for the fall because we were really cautious about how we were going to open schools and being respectful of that and being inclusive to any kid that wanted to be involved in something like this. So I really think that this was the really safe option in the fall, was to utilize this platform. And Mary Woodman was really supportive. Tom was supportive. Mike, as far as allowing us the funds so that we could get these 30 students involved and kind of keeping morale up with them. So we were fortunate that we had the opportunity to do this, and the students enjoyed, again, because they could work individually at their computers and respect that the boundaries that we needed to have in place at the time, or they could work remote and we could join Google Meets and discuss different missions and things like that. So we were fortunate to be able to do that. This is the iRobot program. I got involved with this again last year. I'm an ambassador for iRobot right now. And we were actually able to purchase 6 of these little roots, which you can see up on the board. They're little robots. They look kind of like the vacuums. And the kids, again, can program those to do all sorts of things. They drive around. You can put a marker in them. I think Tom's trying to navigate to one where you can actually see the new platform. They are constantly modifying and changing that platform, which is really kind of cool for us. So we've been, helpful in helping them develop that. And in return, we received half pricing for those 6 routes that we got. And there's already interest in other grade levels. I think Eric Momney, again, him and I work together quite often. He ended up using those with his 6th graders, and I used them with the 7th graders. So they had an opportunity to do that. And it's basic block coding. But really, the most important part of block coding is really problem solving and how to logically make something work together and think through things. So some of those 21st century skills that have nothing to do with technology are really the things that we see evolve in those STEM classes. Is how do we break a problem down into smaller pieces that we can then attack? How do we reach out to the experts in the room who know how to do specific things so that we can create the best program or product that we have? So I love it. I enjoy working with the kids and watching them have those aha moments. We had a couple of them today in class, which is really cool. So the other thing we've utilized is the Discovery Ed. Had a whole new platform this year that involved block coding. We've been using that with both the 6th and 7th graders. So even though we've had to, jump through some hurdles, we've still been able to deliver a really strong STEM curriculum to kids. And welcome, Heidi. Congratulations, Liz, on being back on the board.
Thank you.
And again, the support that the board always gives us when we show up with crazy technology requests is always greatly appreciated. And the community, when we ask for anything for them, they seem to really support us. So thank you, so that we can continue to do what we do.
There's a lag on this. I apologize. So, but you can access it on your
It's a 5-digit code. If you put the 5-digit code in, you can actually see a couple of the programs run that were created. So really simple programs, but just to give you an idea of what the platform looks like and how it's developing. Does anybody have any questions about our program or things that we're doing?
I do. It may be probably a basic question, but are all of these integrated into the curriculum somehow? I mean, the one I'm most familiar with is the Lego League, which is a co-curricular. So I'm curious, like, which of these are co-curriculars versus curriculum?
So it's funny when we find something that works. We of course want to bring it to as many kids as we can. And Eric and I and Tom have talked a lot about, because we now have these resources. We have these 8 new spikes that, when we're not using them for the extracurricular clubs, would it make sense for Eric to use them with some of the kids that he's doing with his robotics program to supplement some of the Project Lead the Way robotics stuff? So the possibilities, now you've been in my room, Tara, I think, so you've seen the back of my room always has a Lego table in it. So the 6th and the 7th, Corey's shaking his head, the 6th and 7th graders who circle through my room are all exposed in a very risk-free environment. Hey, come play with the robots. That's where we're at right now. And kids will come in groups of 2 or 3, and they'll look at the robots that we have built, and they'll decide, okay, I think I want to build one of these. They'll come during BEST. They'll build a robot. They'll try to run it on the table. And that's really how we're running this year. It's nothing like really, really strict, because I just think the kids need a break. They need that downtime. They need that safe space where they can just kind of explore. So that's kind of what we've done this year. The other programs will move in and out of my curriculum, because like the Roots, the iRobot stuff was definitely in both Eric's and mine. We're just trying it out, see how this works, see how it works with kids, see what's the best fit. And then of course we always then go to Tom and Mary and Mike and say, hey, we want to do this. We might need a little bit, a few more devices. Mary, I had one of the iRobots in the spring of last year when we first went into COVID, and I went to Mary and said, I think these could be something that could be utilized not just by us, but by the elementary building and the high school, because that platform, as well as Discovery Ed, has both script, basic blocks, and then more intermediate blocks. So in theory, this curriculum could be used through all 3 schools. And I've already spoken to Sean McDonough, and he expressed some interest in kind of looking at that stuff. So we do try to work really carefully together. And I know I didn't exactly answer that. It's not there yet. We haven't developed it, but there's possibilities for all of these things to be integrated into our curriculum if they seem to be a good fit for our kids.
That's a great way to test it out. Kind of like a beta year.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Again, I want to thank Robin and Eric behind the scenes for both of their work and ongoing. Amy Provenzel is also another one that does a lot of promotion of this, but for their ongoing work and promoting of our STEAM programming at LMS. So thank you, Robin, and thanks for staying in.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
Appreciate it.
Good night. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to your leprechaun.
To your daughter.
I know she's gonna be 18 next year, so I gotta hold on to these last 365 days, right?
I forgot you had a St. Patrick's Day kiddo too. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, can I just real quick? We've had some really neat community. Of course, Extend a Helping Hand is one of our themes, and the student council and student council and also our math department oversees our St. Jude's Children's Hospital fundraiser. They raised over $4,700 for St. Jude's. We got a nice letter from them. We donated to the Loner's Closet and the Manchester Animal Shelter. So we were all over the place, but just some really good community building over the last few weeks, couple of months. And then also we had done first ever at LMS virtual talent show virtual pep rally that went really well. And we have plans. You might have heard the buzz about the amazing race coming up. Miss Thayer and I are odds-on favorites, just saying. But that's coming up. Student Council is planning that. So just some fun community, school community events. And then last, I just want to recognize Tara actually is heading up our blood drive for late May. And the PTO met recently and continues to move forward planning for that. Chris Rooney, our health teacher at the school, is going to be partnering on that. And so there's an education piece to the blood drive and also, of course, the actual blood drive. So it's a really neat program through the Red Cross that's going to give students an education around why it's important to donate blood, give blood, and also families to have that opportunity. So thank you, Tara.
Thank you for allowing it. And thanks to the PTOs, it's both the elementary and the middle school PTOs that are supporting that.
And at long last, I put an image. It's not a public, like this is the mascot logo. You know where the links now, but the logo is almost finalized. Eric Momney has been instrumental in this process. We have secured the VEX file finally, or vector file. And so we're doing some tweaking and the final product should be done in the next couple of weeks. So
I like it.
exciting.
I
and,
know.
More to come. So,
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That's good.
Tom.
Thank you.
Just got two things. First, is it going to be an 8th grade graduation dance?
So I don't know if it's going to be a dance. I don't know if it's going to be a graduation dance. We're going to have a social, and what that looks like, we have the luxury of having a little bit more time. We're not planning a prom,
Yep.
so we have a little bit more time to see where the guidelines go in the next several weeks. But we will be doing a social of some sort.
The other thing is, because I know it, right when the food drive, I think, began, we shut down for a few weeks. Do you know if you're going to revisit and do another food drive? Because I know that all 3 schools just to compete, and you know, I know they're always looking for products. I just didn't know.
More than ever,
That's a
too.
great
Yeah.
question. Yeah, I can pass
Yeah.
that forward. I know the student councils at all 3 schools have done that in the past.
Right,
Sounds
and
like
I believe it
something that-
right when we're ready set to do it this year, we would shut down.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring that forward to the student
Right.
council.
Hmm.
And, I know the high school wins that thing every year. I think maybe if the
I
middle
think
school
they cheat.
initiates it, we can, stock up on some ramen noodles.
Yeah.
Well, how many
Yeah,
cans
thank
of
you. We'll
soup can
bring
a
that forward.
can a kindergartner bring in the backpack?
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
It's heavy stuff.
I send it every day instead of sending it all at once. That
Yeah.
way they can just bring a few things.
Great.
Not me. I give
Well,
them
thanks,
a
Tom. I
bag
don't
to carry.
I think you're free to go. I don't know if we need you for anything else coming up. Mike, do we need Tom to stay?
I don't think we do. If he, unless the board, for non-public, there's really nothing relative to middle school. So I think you should run.
You're excused.
Yeah.
Go get your
Okay.
Irish on.
Well, thank you very much. And congratulations,
Thank you.
Heidi and Liz.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
And thank you, Brian, for your work too.
You're welcome. Thank you.
BA report. Nope, committee reports.
Nope. Business
No.
Oh,
administrator.
BA report.
Oh, good committee reports
If you
is on
want
there.
to, if you want to skip, that's fine.
Do we have any committee reports?
No, I don't know. Anyway,
Sorry.
I want to echo the congratulations to Heidi and Liz, being back on the board and joining the board.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Tina.
Thank you.
And thank you, Brian, for all your work as chair
Yeah.
over the past several years. Just to go through, we are, Mike put it yesterday, foot on the gas in terms of this LMS project. And that culminated in 4 interviews yesterday where we met with 4 very, very qualified construction managers. Those being Hutter Construction, Ekman, North Branch, and Meridian. So it was a marathon day for Mike, myself, David Ely, and Dick Henry, who took part in these interviews. So we have come to a decision and a recommendation. We will discuss that with the board in non-public. Also, along with that, we do have the proposal from Windy Hill Associates, which is David Ely, and under his contract, his team being Design Day Mechanical, Dick Henry will now kind of shift into working with David, and we'll pay through there, and electrical systems engineering to help us in the design phase. Now, the value that David Ely and Dick Henry and their team bring to this project, me and Mike don't have the time or the expertise to do these things that they're doing for us. So we'll also review David's proposal in non-public. The district-wide ventilation, I did provide a report within my documents giving kind of where we stand in terms of the funding that we've received and what we spent and encumbered to date. So encumbered, there may be more funds available within that balance, but right now that it just accounts for what's open purchase orders to the vendors that we're using. The year-to-date financial information, I provided the financial reports for your review, including a listing of proposed year-end projects, things for consideration as we get closer. Me and Mike are going to discuss this list further on Friday at our regular meeting and bring to the directors next week on Wednesday to refine it, to see where exactly we want things to go. So there are some things on there. I'll mention briefly. There is a list of projects on there for GMS. They've been deferred for a couple of years. However, I'm going to follow up with David Ross and see, are any of these things in crisis level? I mean, we're looking at the potential 3 to 5 years of looking to put a new building up. Do we want to invest $11,000 in a door that we could get 3 to 5 years more out of? So those things, and then we can reallocate into where we need that funding, most importantly, as we go forward. There's food service comparative statements in there, February. The one thing that's glaring in there still, we've had a big increase in federal revenue thanks to the waiver provided by the USDA to receive full reimbursement for free meals. As a result of that, there's been a significant loss in local revenue. So it shows we're going to be subsidizing the food service fund again at the end of this year. There is still talk that there will be funding coming for some of the meals that, to make up for some of the meals that weren't served in the initial shutdown. Now that's it's not going to make up all our losses, but any bit helps. So I'm keeping an ear out for any additional information on that.
Okay. So those losses are really, even though we're getting full reimbursement,
Yeah.
we're serving less. We were serving less meals. Plus, we didn't have all the snacks and all those things available. That's why it's
All the cart revenues, the local revenues, the catering, the vending, all those things that would usually get into the local revenue spot. They're just not there. It's non-existent right now. So the breakfast program has helped with additional meals served and additional reimbursement, but we're still not serving the total number of meals that we have in the past. Mike, you have your little hand raised there.
I do. So just, I wanted to point out, Corey mentioned it, but he and I are going to meet Friday on that summer project list. What we're finding is, and we're hearing this consistently across any sort of construction related or project related thing, the lead times have just astronomically gone up. I know traditionally we come to the board late May or early June to make a request for that. We're probably going to do that a little bit earlier. So I really would ask the board to take a look at the list Corey presented you on page 5 of his report. If there's something on there that just really concerns you, now would be the time to raise it, because our goal is to fine tune that, come back with a final list. But I want the board to really reflect and think about what's there, because, for example, the phone system, to get that ordered and installed and in place, in the past, that might have been a shorter time period. Now, with electronics being what they are, waiting till June might mean we wouldn't have a phone system in place for the start of the year. And it would be very disruptive to be upgrading that during the school year. So just if the board can really start to look at that list, because we're gonna push hard to try to utilize the funds and to get a solid plan with as much lead time as we can. So on the flip side, Corey's also rolling his sleeves up to make sure that he's tight on the amount that he sees as available. You're always with a moving target between revenues that finally come in and then final expenditures. So, but he's really sharpening his pencil to make sure that we know where we are, and we're going to be asking the board to probably just approve some stuff a little bit sooner, so that we have a handle on it.
So the roof, the windows, and the conference room are part of the Windy Hill, right? Is the kitchen also, is that separate?
We have brought the kitchen up to the architect. I don't know, did we mention it in the interviews yesterday as part of it, or?
It was referenced as one of the summer summer projects. The concern with the kitchen, there's really, we think there's two different ways to go, and we need to stand in the kitchen with the architect, Dave, and just see if the lesser expensive option that we envision is doable.
Yep.
So we have an idea of a way to do this that will make the LMS traffic flow more like what you have at the high school, multiple entry points and so forth, exiting. Instead of having the cash register inside the serving line, you can have it outside of the cafeteria like they do at Campbell. However, the minute we have this great idea, an architect will point out, well, it doesn't work because that sprinkler system and that egress and so forth. So we just got work to do to make sure that the lesser expensive option is up to code and will work.
Yeah, and getting to that with that setting that time up with the architect, with David, he's really been instrumental in the RFQ process, the RFP process, and that's really been his focus as of lately. So we will set up a time to take a look at that as soon as possible.
So likely that'll be a quote from Windy Hill, but just a separate one. Is that, or
I think
to get
we
the
would
RFQ?
incorporate that. We would incorporate it into the projects that the construction manager would work towards, because you've got that knowledge base there. They have their subcontractors or the subcontracting list that they provide to us with the people that'll be available. So it we'll work our way there. We're heading in that direction. Mike gave the whole budget update. My summary of the budget here gives the dollar figures, what the total appropriation looks like once you've incorporated budget transfers and such. That's all in here. The MS-22, I am going to be sending that out to the board for your review over the next couple weeks. There's an allocation process that has to take time. There's a little bit of legwork involved. You have to allocate all the appropriations to schools, usually based on projected enrollment. So I'll be working on that over the next couple of days, and I'll send that out to the board, and then we'll provide the signature form at the next meeting so we can get that submitted to the state. Let's see. I had a couple extra things that came up just right now. The audit, of course, right as I sit down tonight, I got the audit report from the auditors with the letter to governance. What I would like to do is take tomorrow morning to review with the admin team what's there in terms of findings, so they know. I don't want to have them look back at the school board meeting and be blindsided by certain things that are going in a letter to the school board. So what I will do is as soon as we've had those discussions, I'll send that information out to the board. Is there anybody that wants a hard copy of the audit when it comes in, or is everybody okay with digital? Or
digital's fine.
Digital's
Yeah.
fine.
If you have an extra copy, I'll take the hard copy.
Yeah, we have hard copies coming in the mail. So those will be in. I'll get that to you. Other than that, unless you have any questions for me, I know there's budget transfers on here too.
I just have one question on the expenditures for year end.
Yes.
I understand the Chromebooks for 5th grade.
Yep.
And the freshmen, because that's the rotation process. How does 1st grade come in? I don't remember 1st grade.
It was in the budget. We reallocated it out of the requested budget to year-end funding list. We did talk to, I talked to Jason this morning during directors, and I said, let's revisit that number and what we think is going to be needed in terms of the number of Chromebooks needed, the price that we're expecting, but the cost of those has gone up
Right.
as
So,
well, even for the base models.
so right now, fourth grade, they all have one, correct? Fourth grade,
I think, does fourth grade,
I believe.
have we issued fourth graders individual Chromebooks? Are they all in a sharing?
So I'm confident that over the break, the Chromebooks all arrived for grades 1 through 4, but they are classroom based. The thing that got delayed was the delivery of the carts to house those. And they have now come in, and tech is in the process of getting the carts set up and getting everything permanently housed. So just a reminder that the model at GMS is that they're not going home, but they are in the classroom.
Right.
Available.
So each classroom
People
will
go
have a
home
cart.
if, I mean, obviously if we're in remote mode or, we have been sending devices home, but those are the devices that are available.
Right, but I believe we have a device for fourth grade for all students, correct?
I believe it's 1-to-1, Brian. I think there's, I think every classroom has a
All
cart
4.
of, 20.
So why are we replacing?
Number that are needed for the students in that classroom.
As part of the cycle, because a lot of the ones that are down at GMS have been
So that's
moved
just-
from the other buildings as we
All right.
cycle through. So like I said, we're gonna work with Jason and refine the numbers.
And these totals in here are still the touchscreen totals, correct?
Yes.
Which we
So we haven't
determined.
we haven't adjusted back to the. So we'll take a look at that over the next week or so.
I think right now the 4th grade computers are, they're more the hand-me-down Frankenstein model that we put together. So they are not the newer model, but those are due to be replaced as part of this process. So
Corey, anything that says deferred, is that deferred from last year?
This one.
Deferred from?
They were in the operating budget for
Oh.
FY21.
Okay.
I believe they were. I mean, those are things that we've been eyeing for the past couple of years, but just for the didn't complete them over last summer as part of the budget process. Dave put them back in, but it's again that notion of how much are we going to invest if we can continue with what we've got for another couple of years. Obviously, if a door's broken in half, it needs to be taken out. But if it's still working properly and not in too bad a shape, we can make it through another couple of years.
Corey, have you received any word on additional CARES funding or grants coming in?
I just received an email. I haven't had an opportunity to read it. An email did just come through from the state.
Corey, if I can give an update.
Yep.
So I was in the state DOE update meeting on Monday, and the superintendents are beside themselves, very frustrated because, as you know, back in January, the commissioner put out a memo showing how much money each school district was able to get under the second round of money. However, they have yet to release the rules that show how that money can be used. So we don't have the money. We can't create a budget for the money. We can't initiate in our grants management system any kind of funding scheme for it because we're still waiting to hear how that money is even able to be spent. So it's a very frustrating experience for everybody. Superintendents across the state feel the cart got put before the horse. Here's how much money you're getting, community of Litchfield.
Maybe.
And so now people see that as this massive amount of money that's available, but there are the strings haven't been written yet. So figuring out how to use it is really something that's going to take us a little bit of time. So
It's not available.
and then on top of that, keep in mind that the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that just got passed has more money available to schools. That's round 3. And so there will be more money that will come our way with a whole new set of rules probably that will be written relative to how that can be spent. So the good news is that there is money available to assist us with things like ventilation or some extended school year programming for kiddos, et cetera. And again, I'm tossing those out as once the rules are written, I'm assuming that kind of stuff will be covered, but we just don't know at this point. It's a very frustrating experience across the board.
And as information gets released, it goes into the grants management system through the state. And then you have to, based on their rules, you have to apply for the grant, have things identified that you're going to spend it on, and that becomes a reimbursement based grant. Last I saw, I believe it's the time of availability is through September of 23. So we're going to have a good stretch of time to spend those funds down under the rules that
Which is
they
good,
set.
but we could really use them now to set up things like ESY and
We could,
keep working on the ventilation system, other programming.
but I don't know if ESY is going to be, if that's one of the allowable costs.
Right,
We just
right.
don't have that information.
All right. Well, thank you for the update.
Mhm.
Disappointing as it is.
I'll make a
the
motion
only-
to accept the budget transfers.
Second?
Tara, you had mentioned, you had noted,
I mean, every month I look at the budget transfers and it's like, okay, it's going from one place to another, but I don't know what those codes mean, like what account. And not that I would be scrutinizing it, but I feel like if I'm just looking at it and voting on it, I should at least have the definition of what those accounts are. Are those standard definitions across all schools that I
Yes.
could just find that online somewhere? Like,
The,
what's code 430 for,
you know, the functions in the account structure are standard throughout the state of New Hampshire. So you could go into any school district and reckon that how they show it, how it's masked is how they kind of say it in the software, is either it might be different. It's always the fund first, but somewhere in the organization code here, there's also location, function. In our case, it's subject or program, and then it's the account number, which is the object, which is the 3-digit account. They're
It's
all
mostly the
consistent.
account number that I was looking at because it seems like they're all transfers within the same fund and
Yeah.
at least from what I can see within the key organization. So it's
Yeah.
just the account numbers really that I'd
So-
love to get a list
They
of.
correspond
For-
with what's in your budget.
Yeah.
Too.
So if you
That's
look
been
at your
printed
budget,
out,
those
so.
numbers are the same.
There's got to be an easier way to look at that though.
So-
There has to be a listing somewhere of what these account numbers are.
Well,
That
you
is
have
one
to
page
pull it out of
versus
the software.
200 pages.
They do. have a
I'll
list.
take a look.
You know what I mean?
I'll take a look and I'll generate you something that just gives a listing of the accounts, what they would be, what the range is. So for example, like 330 is
Type it out. If you can't find it, I'll look online too. You know, I feel like there must be a definition.
I can
Yeah.
come up with it pretty easy.
Alright.
So for example, like 330 is professional services or contracted services. A
Yeah.
610 is a supply line. Like
Right. See, that would just like a definition, like a legend.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
we can get something together for you.
The
on that.
description helps me out a lot too.
Mhm.
You know, what exactly
You know-
that.
You know that thing I have on my
that was
desk,
for.
that
Mhm.
color coded thing that.
Oh,
you
we
can-
do have. I have one in
There's
my
one
office
in
too.
there.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
copy
we
it.
actually have a sheet right on hand that I can just scan in and
Right.
put out there for you.
Yeah, and the description does help, but it's the same. So it's just that's what it. I know the COVID fund is switching from one fund to another, but I have no idea what funds those are.
Yeah, that's coming out of, it looks like out of contracted services into a supply line. That's, but we'll put that together. I mean, I look at it and I can tell you what an account is pretty quick. 'Cause I've
Right,
been
you
doing
know
this
what they are
for a while. But we'll get something together, and I think that would help Heidi as well as a new
Yeah.
Yeah,
board member
sure.
and all board members just to quickly go
That'd be
through and
great.
look.
Thank you.
And then the reason why there's so many is because I noticed that we didn't do it since the beginning of the year. So
I see.
Yeah, usually this is monthly, right?
Yeah,
we
right.
usually do it monthly, and I just got lazy.
Okay.
So
So we
We
have.
didn't have anything else going on.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's not late. It's probably policy work that's taking you from it.
Yeah.
that in my sleep.
So we have a motion and a second. we ready? Any
Can I
further
ask,
discussion?
is this something I should abstain from because I wasn't part of this? Or is this something that, I mean, I've looked it over. They all seem to line up. I feel
You can vote.
comfortable
You can
voting,
vote.
but I want to check.
Yeah, I think
I think
you're
that's fine.
fine to vote.
Okay, all right, I just want to confirm.
All right, so all in favor of approving the budget transfers for 2021 so far?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 400.
Does anyone have any other questions on any of the information I provided tonight? Or
Corey, can I just verify, do we need a vote on the Windy Hill agreement?
I think we want to discuss that in non-public a little bit more.
Perfect.
Heidi, another thing that I did as a new board member was, it was Frank at the time, but I met with the BA just to kind of go over.
We talked about that.
Excellent.
I'm on
Okay.
it. Yep.
Good job. All right, committee reports. Did any committees meet since our last meeting?
Nope. But I did just forward you the budget committee's agenda and also the town's budget
Weekly
that they
budget.
send weekly.
Okay. thank you.
So could you ask them a question for me?
Yeah.
So going through that, it looks like they still have about 90% of their budget left on everything. I mean, like salaries, fire department, police department, and their year ends in a few months.
Okay.
But if you go through that and just look at,
Are they on? Are they?
I don't think
Are they
they are
fiscal
yet.
now? I
I
think
think
they're
they're
calendar
still
year
on
still.
calendar year.
So it's
I thought
January
they
to
went to
December.
July.
I think,
Right, so that's why
I don't
then.
know if it's this year or next year, but I think I could swear they're still on calendar
Well,
year. For
that
this
makes
year.
sense then.
And
That's why it looks
Okay.
like that.
there's a process when you transition to a fiscal year. It's usually an 18 month cycle.
Yeah.
So it gets a little.
I thought they were on it now, but they're not.
Yep.
All right, so that makes sense then.
All right, so
And-
never mind.
Yeah, never mind.
All right.
So then the other question I had as far as committees, I was also on the emergency meeting committee. And
Oh, yeah.
so I don't know if that is something that you're going to go on to, or do you want me to continue going?
Do you have a preference?
I don't mind going.
Yeah, if, we just communicate as a board.
Yep.
I think that's fine. Okay. Should we add that to our list of board?
It's not a board committee, it's a district committee, but it
Okay.
is reported at the board level. You have to have a board member on it.
Okay. All right, then I'm comfortable with Brian still attending those. Okay, so, new business, that brings us,
I actually had,
oh, sorry, Tara.
now that grading is going to be an official committee, right?
Mhm.
The grading committee met yesterday, and it was actually I thought a really productive meeting. Mary conducted a survey on reassessment and understanding and it was a blind survey, so nobody knew who was answering what. And it was understanding the why behind reassessment, things like acknowledging that, like, do you agree that students learn at different paces? And of course, everybody said yes, so that was good. But then every progressive question seemed to have like more differences of opinion. So it was really, really eye-opening, and she gave everybody an opportunity to say, okay, why you think you agree with this statement or why you don't. And so I think it was a really useful really open and candid and useful conversation that will hopefully help move everybody in the same direction. But there's definitely still some work to be done about reassessment and some of the rules around reassessment. But I thought it was a really productive conversation.
Great, thank you. Any other committees? I don't think
Hold
so. What's up?
I opened Explorer and I moved. There we go.
Mike's still here.
Put
Mike,
Mike back there.
did you want to talk about the legislative update?
Yes, I can do that.
Why is it
So,
not working?
so first of all, let me check in with Heidi. Are you getting these legislative updates yet?
No.
Has that been activated for you?
Not yet.
Okay.
I can
So-
forward that one to you, Heidi.
I will send you over what I have.
Okay.
These will come directly from the School Board Association. They're actually pretty good summaries and updates for you. So, you know, and once they start to come, you'll get many, especially during the legislative portion of the year where there's a lot of activity going on. So,
Sure.
in the first update, I think the key thing is that the couple of bills that we have been actively tracking. So House Bill 455, which basically would allow a parent to enroll a child in any public school that they choose. That has been retained in committee. I think that the committee recognized that there were several logistical pieces that would be problematic with that. So they've retained that at this time. Senate Bill 130, which is the Senate's version of the Education Freedom Account, that has been voted as ought to pass with an amendment. And the amendment they did was basically lowering the definition of who is eligible to receive those. And you can see that it's less than 300% of federal poverty guidelines. So that's something that's a bill that our association is going to continue to track because that's coming out of the Senate. We'll then have to cross over to the House. If you remember the House's version of a similar bill, they were able to retain in committee. It didn't get out of committee. So, but this bill is going to cross over, and then the House will have to have a vote on it also. So, and then you can see there's quite a substantial list of other bills. So let me just pause and see if the board has questions on any of these that we can help to answer.
No. Would the board like for me to send another letter to the Senate Education Committee and our Donna Susie, I believe, is our state senator, for the Senate version of the Education Freedom Account bill? I did send one to our state reps when it was in the House Education Committee.
Well, you got the letter written, right?
Yeah, I do.
do.
I do.
Sounds good then.
Yeah.
I would support that.
Okay, Brian.
I'd like to mention real quick, Heidi, when I send over the information from the NHSBA on the legislative updates and stuff, you're going to see they'll at the bottom, they'll include a link for you to register to submit testimony.
Okay.
So in case you wanted to do something like that, you
Okay.
can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I like that new feature. That's actually.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if that's always been the case.
It's
that
in
you
a
can-
lot of them, and it is a nice feature.
It is a nice feature.
To do that more often.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions for Mike on that?
No, thank you for the updates for that. I mean, honestly, up until 6 months ago, I don't think I had never participated in that level. So I appreciate knowing about it. And, you know, my aha moment was you need to know the date that they're testifying. And
Right.
that was the key
Right.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those updates from NHSBA are really
Yeah.
helpful. Okay, we have some policy work to do, some reapprovals. I'll make a motion to approve policy BGF, BHC, BIA, BIB, BID, BIE, BJ, BK, and BKA.
Second.
Any comments or questions, discussion?
Okay, I know Michelle got back to me on a few things. I just have to look at 3 policies. So
Okay.
the BHC board, oh yeah, you explained that. That, I just thought the wording on that was jumbled. BHC, board employee communication. Relative to the all communication or reports to the board or any board committee. I was confused because any board committee from principals, supervisors, teachers, or other employee members, but you're saying it's really,
So in other words, like Joint Loss Safety Committee, right? Joint Loss Management Committee is a board committee, but there are principals on it. So the principal, if the superintendent wasn't at that meeting, they report to the superintendent. They don't report to you. And then the superintendent submits that report to the board representative to the board. That's just one example.
right, okay.
In the past, we had a committee that came to the board, a request for the committee that came to the board from student athletics to, I think Brian might remember this, to consider making, giving credit to athletes for, for graduation.
Yeah.
And that, even though it wasn't a board committee, there was a board member on it.
Mm.
And so it was a principal-led committee. That report went to the superintendent and then back to the board.
So shouldn't any board committee submit their reports to the superintendent? Or
There are some committees that don't get reported at all.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, but it says or other employee members. How would there be a committee that hasn't?
I know it is sketchy the way was written with the former board, I should say.
Reports to the
I think it's basically saying that, like if you think about negotiations, if something is coming from a teacher who's on the negotiation committee, it wouldn't go to the board. It would go through Mike first. If they had a communication for the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think what it's saying is like literally all staff communications should go to the superintendent, right? I mean,
Right, which would be, it would go up from the principals and that would be the proper channels,
yeah,
right?
I don't know. I mean, if I'm the only one who finds it confusing, then we don't have to change.
I just
I
didn't.
think a couple of well-placed commas in that would
Yeah,
probably right after the word the first word board and the word committee. All communications or reports to the board or any board committee, comma, from principals. In other words,
Put the board and board committee together.
right.
right.
Yeah, I think that would
That
be
might
fine.
help.
I think that would help you.
Okay, that's fine. And BIA.
BIA.
New board member orientation.
On that one. Oh, okay. I will agree with you that the more detailed we are, the
Yeah, I mean,
harder it is.
budget
to-
planning and overview of curriculum comes under board operations anyway. And
Yeah.
a new board member, if you give, this is a short list. What I
Yes.
give a
You
new
give
board member
more.
is extensive. To give them any more, I think would be information overload. at that
Right, right.
We also encourage new board members to attend the NHSBA new member
point. Getting her signed up
organization.
on that one too.
Awesome. That's a really
Right.
good workshop. It,
Yeah.
kind of teaches you about what your role is as a
Mhm.
board member.
All
And
right.
that's awesome.
That's the one on May 6th. The new board member.
Yeah,
orientation.
there's more, and if you're gonna be
It's
on a
also for you,
negotiation
chairs.
committee,
What's
you
that?
might as
also
well
for new
take the
board chairs.
collective bargaining one too.
Yeah, I've done the new member one twice, I think, but I'll do the board chair one too.
All right. And then this other one was really a simple change, but I'm wondering if, like it's at BIB development, it says we will plan. Hold on. Where is it? BIB. Oh, did I open the wrong one? Hold on. BIB development. Where's my note? I want to see it. The board shall attempt to plan specific in-service activities, and I wonder if we just say to have hold it, that's not the right one.
Yep, that's the right
Is that
policy.
the right one?
You wanted to insert plan or provide access
Plan or
to, but
provide access, because I think more of it is not us planning it per
Mm-hmm.
se. And I think provide access is broader too. It means we can either plan it or provide access,
Right.
through the New
Through the
Hampshire School Board.
NHSBA.
which you do have through the NHSBA.
Right.
Yeah.
So just a small
I wouldn't
suggestion
mind
there.
adding that.
Yeah.
provide access.
Adding that language.
I think it would probably be better to say the board shall attempt to take advantage of
Mhm.
specific in-service activities, because basically you already have the access.
Right.
But
I'd like to
it's
take
up
out
to the board,
attempt. I think
just
we
a
should plan
suggestion.
and, plan
But it's an
and-
easy fix.
Yeah, that's it. So two small things.
Okay. So
That's easy to fix.
let's see. So we have a motion and a second to approve all of the policies. Should we exclude BID and then vote on the amendment to it?
It's only a couple of words.
I would say we just
We just
do them
go
with the
ahead and
changes,
reapprove it?
with the
Okay.
changes just spelled out.
All right, thank you. So, all in favor of approving, that bucket of policies? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay? Abstain? That passes 400. That brings us to the coronavirus review and update.
All right. So if you take a look at the current situation update, I just want to walk across the numbers a little bit. You can see that for celebrating St. Patrick's Day, we left today highlighted in green across the 3 schools. But starting with Griffin, there are currently 3 student cases that are positive there. Now, all 3 of those have been outside of school. There's had 0 impact in the building. These are students who had been noticed. I mean, there's one student who is linked to the hockey outbreak that is in the news. And so they have been noticed as a family by the organization and had kept the child out of school to monitor the situation. So the good news is that although the number has gone up to 3, that it has not had any impact at Griffin. And our staff number you can see is at 0. So from a quarantine point of view, our number of students who are quarantined is at 5. And that includes some siblings who are related to some of the positives. So when you put it all together, that accounts for those numbers. From a staff point of view, the 11 staff members who are on leave, plus the 4 who are out sick today. I mean, Dan is covering 15 staff, but it is manageable for him, and he has been able to make that work. So let me pause for a second on Griffin and see if there are questions about their numbers that I can help answer.
That's a huge feat to make 15 absences work. That's all I have to say. How many totals? I mean, I ask this a lot, but how many? How many staff are in that building?
Well, and remember that that's a combination of teachers and paras. So, and so it's not necessarily 15 classroom teachers. It's not 15 classroom teachers, but they are able to. Honestly, the front office staff, which has to manage the book and assign people, they do a lot of magic to make it all work out.
Can I ask a question about, I had sent you an email, Mike, and I wasn't sure if you had a chance to look at it in terms of notification of a positive case and when an email is sent out to families versus when an email is not sent out to families, and what that looks like.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So the protocol that we've been following is that immediately when we learn of a case, we do the contact tracing. So we determine if it's had any impact in the school, if there are other students who are within close contact, who then need to go into an isolation observation period, et cetera. So those families are noticed right away. And we take that action right away. And then if it's had an impact in the school, we will follow up typically later in the day or as soon as we can get to it with a notice that, hey, we've had this situation. Close contacts have been notified. If you haven't heard anything, that's good news for you and your family. So that's how we get that communication flow out. When there's no impact in the school, what we do is provide the Friday update that we've had this impact. But it's not something that we send out because we really just don't want to cause alarm when there's no alarm to be caused. And so in this case, Principal Mitchell will be including that in his Friday newsletter for the Griffin community so that they know of those 3 cases. Remember, parents do have access to this. The spreadsheet you're seeing is a public sheet and is available on our website. And if somebody had a question, they can certainly reach out directly to the school admin about that. But that's how the notice will go out in this case because there was 0 impact in the building.
Okay. And is that the same case, same for all 3 schools? That's the same policy across the board for LMS?
They should follow the same protocol because initially we were sending out, if you go back to the fall, we were sending notice right away on each one.
Mm-hmm.
And we just felt that it was actually heightening some anxiety, especially when there was 0 impact on it. And so to sort of minimize that, we're like, okay, if it's got a school-based impact, we definitely want to notice our families. But if it's not school-based, holding off makes more sense. So Heidi, I believe all 3 schools are following the same protocol on it.
Sure. I just want to make sure there's consistency across the board. I think there was an LMS case last week where there was 0 impact, but I do remember there being an email going out. And again, it may have been a school-based case, which made it different than one of these cases where the kids were already out of school. I'm not sure what the circumstances were, but I do recall seeing an email from Mr. Lechleiter that said there was no quarantining necessary. There was no impact. And so seeing that, but then not seeing one for GMS, I just wanted to ask the clarifying question.
It's a great question. The other thing to just keep in mind is timing. So with the newsletters going out on Friday, if we learn of a case Thursday or Friday, then that notice that there was no impact comes pretty rapidly. Versus you can see that 2 of these cases occurred on Tuesday. And so the notice won't go out until Friday. So, sometimes it is a timing question. And it can look like it was a more rapid response, but that's just when we learned of the case.
Okay.
All right, I'll switch over to LMS. In the case of LMS, there is 1 active student positive case at this time. That was also an unknown spread, and the impact in the school was relatively minimal. We have 1 staff member who is quarantining at this stage, and you can see that quarantine period is long, and we projected forward as to when that's going to end, and it takes us through the end of the month. And then there are 4 students who are quarantined, 1 of which is travel related. From a staffing point of view, we've got 2 staff working from home, 2 who are on leave, and 2 who are out sick today. So it really was a minimal staff impact at LMS, and they are faring very well. And if you look at their student absence numbers, they had upticked a little bit last week, but they've come back down to more than normal levels with 6 students who are out absent today. I'll pause at the LMS chart and see if there are questions.
No, I think
All
we're
right,
good.
let's move on to CHS. So it's a little bit of a different story at CHS. Bill and I have been in phone contact to try to figure out exactly what he needs to do because his numbers are a little bit worrisome. So let's walk across it. You can see that there are 2 positive staff members. That's going to carry us through March 25th. There is also 1 positive student, and that will carry us through March 24th. So from a positivity point of view, 3 cases at the high school is higher than what they have been accustomed to, but it's not outrageous. It's not a cluster. It's not, an outbreak or anything along those lines. The issue comes in as and you'll notice, by the way, that 2 of those are definitely known to be community spread, and 1 is unknown spread. So we're not sure exactly where the other came from. The issue pops up in the quarantining. So we have 7 staff who were deemed to have been in close contact with either their colleague or the student. And there are 21 students who are also in close contact and needing to quarantine at this time. Now, for the students, it works out pretty well with the pivot over to remote. But with staff, it's a little bit more of a challenge. There are two of the community members, by the way, who are quarantining because of travel-related situations. So here's what we have. We have 8 staff members who are working from home. There were none on leave today and nobody on PD, but there were 7 staff members who took sick time today. So between 8 staff members working from home, and you still have to provide some level of supervision within the building, and then you have the 7 staff members who were sick and not able to work, it created a lot of coverage issues at the high school. I can tell you that it was kind of all hands on deck there for the last couple of days and today in particular, and probably that will continue to be the case for tomorrow and Friday. At this point, Principal Lonergan is confident that they can continue to get everything covered and to keep school open and functioning. If there's a school that we had to pivot kind of last minute to a remote scenario, the high school is probably the best of the 3 to do that because you don't run into quite as many daycare or child supervision concerns with the high schoolers. So we still want to avoid that at all costs. If we can keep the school open and keep things running, that's what we want to do. And that's what Principal Lonergan is committed to. So I'll pause at this for a second and see if there are questions or concerns about the CHS numbers.
Any comments or questions? Nope.
No.
I think we're all set, Mike.
All right. And again, we're doing our best on it. I have to say, this is where when we decided to do the daily COVID briefing calls, it just helps us tremendously to go through it, know exactly what our numbers are on a daily basis. And I can assure the board that in those meetings, you know, I said to Principal Lonergan, I'm like, if you can't do it, say so. It's okay. You know, we've said from the beginning that if we have staffing concerns, and with the number of people that you have here, if you can't cover it safely in the building, let's just make the switch. But he's committed to having students in the building. He feels that's the best model. And so far, he's been covering classes. Guidance director's been covering classes. The athletic director's been covering classes. Administrative assistants across the school have been covering classes. So they're doing what it takes in order to make sure that they can keep it running.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so this just in, thank you, Apple Watch. Principal Lonergan is reporting another student positive test that just came in. He's thinking that it's going to have a 9 student, maybe 10 student impact in terms of contact tracing. So you are witnessing how fluid this is and how quickly this can shift and change on us. So, you know, by tomorrow we'll be adding 1 into the student column, adding additional students in the quarantining, and
Hopefully no more staff
I
members.
was going to say, is there a staff
It-
impact?
no staff, it would appear, is
Really?
Okay.
text message. So, but literally, here we are sitting here reviewing the numbers, and they're wrong already. They've just been updated. So, again, we'll continue to monitor it, and I can just assure the board that if it's not safe to run, we will make the decision and do what we need to do.
Okay.
So the rest of the tabs at the bottom, the enrollment tab. So just a quick reminder that those were updated March 1st. Tom and Dan are going to be sending out one more opportunity for families to pivot back into in-person. Information on that will be going out in, I can't remember if it's this week's newsletter or next week's, but that will be coming along. And then the high school has one more pivot date related to the fourth quarter. So third quarter will end on April 7th, fourth quarter starting on April 8th. And at that point, students will be able to make a transition if they need to. So all that information will be coming out. And then I think we're pretty much going to be in kind of the pattern for the rest of the year. We'll take case by case basis if a family were to come forward with a request. We'll take that for the rest of the year. But you can see our numbers now. At Griffin, we're at 87% in-person, 13% remote. The middle school is at 79-21, and the high school is at 87-13 also. So the high school and the elementary match each other. The numbers at the middle school are just a little bit more shifted toward remote than in-person model. The vaccine rates I have not updated, so I will pull that chart and get that updated for everyone. And then, of course, we have been tracking the all remote days. The good news is since February 16th, we haven't had any events. So that's a good situation to be in. And I need to update the total number of days that we've had in the interim. So, all right. Anything else from me on those numbers?
Mike, I've heard rumors about staff vaccine opportunities. I know that today was the first day that the new Vinny system with the state was up and running. And we were working on getting a clinic here in Litchfield. I know we were invited to the National Regional Clinic for for school staff. Are there any updates on that front?
Yeah, I totally forgot that. Really good updates. Let me give those to the board. So basically, if you remember, we're lumped into a regional health network, and it's the regional health network that has been tasked with setting up the pods to administer staff. The Nashua Regional Health Network that we are a part of has chosen not to organize individual school-based pods, but instead they're doing a one-day, or actually a weekend clinic, and they're anticipating having enough shots for 3,500 educators. I can just tell you that it's the national regional, so I know it's Nashua, I know it's Litchfield that we're combined in with, and I can tell you that the date they picked is Saturday, March 27th, and the location they picked for that clinic is at Fidelity in Merrimack. So that is scheduled and set up. It's going to take place on that Saturday from 9 to 5, and also Sunday, I think, from 9 to 5. So it's a 2-day clinic where staff will be assigned to come and get their shot if they choose to go through that network. And then there's a follow-up 3 weeks later for the second shot. And so that's the scenario that has been set up through the public health network. So 2 things have happened in the meantime. We pursued our own pod. And I just want to give props to our fire chief, Frank Frazel, because he worked closely with Corey and with Holly and with the state to find out, can we do a clinic on site? The answer is that you can. And basically, on-site clinics end up going through Walgreens. So Walgreens is a Pfizer authorized vaccinator. And so at this point, the next date that Walgreens had available was Saturday, March 27th. So it's exactly the same time as the big clinic, but we are plugging ahead with promoting that with our staff because it's the same date. And I think it's going to be a much better setting to come to Campbell High School where people are familiar with the site. They can walk in, get the shot administered through with Litchfield Fire and Rescue there to assist, the Walgreens staff there to assist. Our administrative team will be there to check people in and assist. So I think it's just going to be a better setting for our staff. And I think Holly's number, Corey, do you remember the number signed up to? I want to say it's 140 people maybe.
Yeah.
And it does include, we're providing an opportunity to staff from St. Francis and Tabernacle to
Great.
also be vaccinated on site. So
Great.
that's in the works. The planning is set up. It's locked in.
Yep.
And the key thing is that we just have to confirm exactly how many staff are going to get the shot from us.
Yep. Holly is.
Go ahead.
Holly has sent out an email today to ask because the registration for the state, which also goes through Walgreens, that information is out there. People were getting appointments as soon as Friday.
Yeah.
But if you're going to that, we need to know so we can take you off the list for the clinic, because you don't want wasted doses.
Right.
The one that will be provided through the clinic on the 27th will be the Pfizer
Mhm.
2-dose that needs to be kept cold,
Yeah.
and they need to be used up. From what I heard through one staff member, is the one to go to Walgreens directly sounds like they're doing Moderna.
Mhm.
So there is some difference there. So and we're just trying to get those numbers solid.
So then would they come back 3 weeks later and do the second? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The second.
Yes,
dose?
that's
Yes.
already
So they-
skeduled out, I believe. The
Yeah.
date.
So
the date
Walgreens would
escapes
come
me.
back a second time?
The second shot is on Saturday, April 17th. That's our
Got it.
that's our clinic date that we have set up. So we've locked in both Saturday the 27th and Saturday, April 17th for shot number 2. For those who are playing and what does that mean? You kind of have to keep projecting out.
Mhm.
So 2 weeks from April 17th, 14 days after that, that's when everybody would be deemed fully vaccinated, which means on Monday, May 3rd, when we return back to school from April vacation, every staff member in Litchfield will have had the opportunity to get the shot in their arm. Some will have accelerated that, as Corey said. People signed up at 8 o'clock this morning, and they were able to get the first shot on Friday. So some people are going to beat that deadline by hitting it more aggressively, but all staff will be able to have the opportunity to be fully vaccinated by the return of school after April break.
Great news.
Will you have Holly put out a call for volunteers? I'm happy to volunteer
Yeah, same.
to help out at the clinics.
Yeah, we're looking to have a strong admin team presence at both. But I think we'll probably need some help. We can coordinate with her to see
Okay.
if what other help we need. There was a call this afternoon with the fire chief to go through some of the logistics.
Yeah.
I was not in on, so I want to catch up with Mike and Holly and
Okay.
get some more details myself.
I'm not trying to get a shot. I already got mine. So
Oh,
I'd be happy to.
yeah.
I'm happy to help out.
Yeah, I think but it'll be sort of like voting, if you would.
Mhm.
You'll come at the back door. There'll be a check-in table, and then immediately when you enter into the gym, there will be a series of lanes. I can't remember. I think we're giving 50 shots an hour. So there'll be a series of lanes for people to work through, and then they'll move to the second half of the gym for their 15-minute observation period with our school nursing staff and Litchfield Fire and Rescue available. And then once they pass that 15-minute time period, they'll exit right out the door toward the track. So it'll be one-way flow, one way in and then one way out, and folks will be on their way. So pretty exciting that we've been able to get this established and set up.
Great.
Great job to
Thank you.
Corey and
Yeah,
to Holly
thank you
and
for
to
all
you,
that
Mike.
effort.
And awesome job. And to our chief, I think that is just great.
Yeah.
He has been, Chief Freitzel has been incredible this entire year between town emergency management and keeping everybody updated.
Mm.
And he actually, I think it was about either last week or the week before, he pulled me aside or asked me to call him right after the emergency management and got this going underway. So
Awesome.
it,
Wonderful.
we're very grateful to him.
Yeah. And if it comes around when it's available to the public, if we can get another closed pod here, I'd be happy to volunteer for that one too.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I will say, the board has heard me say before the frustrations with communication with the state.
Mm.
Here's one more example. We have been reaching out to our regional network for weeks after we had learned that there were clinics set up in Londonderry, Salem,
Mhm.
and we just couldn't get a reply. Nobody would get back to us. And then even when they put out notice that they were going to do this one deal, they weren't going to do a series of things. They were going to do one event. The communication said on a Saturday in May with a location to be determined.
Hmm.
And we're like, oh my word,
Crazy.
it's very frustrating to our staff
Yeah.
because they feel like we're dragging our feet. We're just at the mercy of the overwhelmed people. I'm not blaming anybody with this, but it's very frustrating to get an email to say on a Saturday in March and to look at my calendar and say, well, there's only 2 left. So it's either this one or the one after that. And it just felt like the communication flow was not as what I would expect it to be, I guess. So just all across the board, it's been a real clunky communication system. So, but I can assure our staff that between Ollie, Corey, me, we have been doing everything we can.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it was the fire chief who, as the emergency management director, he has access to state resources that we don't have access to. And really, he was the one who was able to figure this out and to get this pulled together. And a
Right.
huge thank you to the chief for doing that
Yep.
for our staff.
Wonderful. That's great news. 5-year construction plan?
So this document was shared with the board at the last meeting. We asked you to take a look at it. Heidi, for orientation purposes, what this is an effort to communicate to the community about what we're trying to accomplish at Campbell, at the middle school, and at Griffin. We're trying to lay out a timeline so that it's very clear and transparent to everybody. So really, the audience for this is the community of Litchfield, so that they can see what we're trying to accomplish. This will help to frame a little bit the discussion we're going to have in non-public relative to hiring a construction manager at the middle school, and then what projects we're hoping to accomplish there. The second page of the document includes some funding sources. It's not all encompassing, but it certainly does paint the picture of existing resources that we have access to, and also the LMS portables. Our goal is to eliminate those this year and to basically recoup the cost of those annually. So we're estimating about $43,400 a year between rent for the portables and then the extra energy costs that go into those. And to bring the 5th grade integrated into the building, it will involve some reconfiguration of classroom space internally. But when you look at the class sizes and the room utilization, we're pretty confident that we can do that successfully. And really what that will free up is in the operating budget, $43,000 a year. Our goal is to utilize that toward the project so that we can pull off longer term energy savings and so forth. So that's the purpose of page 2, is what money do we have kind of in the bank and access to, or that we can repurpose by thinking differently about the way we use our the resources we have. So
I'll say again, that funding sources information, when we brought it last time, I had mentioned that I need to do some updating on that. I still need to get that done. That capital improvement expendable trust fund, that was initially a $70,000 deposit. The additional money for the state infrastructure aid, that came in at $653,200. That's been transferred into that trust fund. Plus we have another 100,000 going in. So, and this other capital reserve that we have, the facilities maintenance, that balance has gone up as well. So there's a little updating to take place on here to make sure the buckets, it's not much different than what's in that total funding sources, but I'll just make those changes for accuracy.
I think the other thing that needs to be updated is if we're looking to utilize fund balance from this year towards some of the projects, then that also ought to be reflected in there. So remember, the strategy at LMS is to set the building up for 40 more years of successful education by using existing resources. So we don't want to bond something. We don't want to, we may have to do a municipal lease purchase in order to take energy savings that are in the operating budget and apply them toward the project. But that really kind of keeps it at a cost neutral point until the lease is paid off, at which point it becomes a tax savings for the public. So it's just sort of transferring how we're spending those dollars in order to accomplish the big picture of the update to the facility. So,
Okay.
did the board have any questions or feedback on that document? So Corey's gonna obviously brush up page 2 a bit. Are there other things about it that you think can help us tell the story better?
As someone who's just seeing this document, you know, not today for the first time, but when I got the materials, I think it's very clear. I think it lays out the priorities really well. I like the format with the timeline. So I think it's a very clear presentation of what the goals are going forward, or at least for the 5 years.
I wonder if it might be helpful to the public to see where those funding sources are earmarked. You know, are they earmarked for the projects at CHS, LMS, GMS? That would be the only suggestion. I mean, is it wise to do that? I mean, I think the intent is it would all go to LMS, and then whatever's left over would then go towards the GMS projects. That's what that reserve fund is about, right?
Yeah, I think we could add into the note field that, you know, that would be the goal. Part of it is, once we get the construction manager hired,
Yeah.
and we can fine tune what the cost is going to be. So we're estimating at this point. So we kind of have to
Yeah.
really nail down, okay, how much is the roof? How much are our new windows? What will the kitchen renovation be? Are we going with the, will the lesser expensive reconfiguration work, or are we going to have to look at a more expensive redesign of the kitchen space and so forth? So, but we still can stipulate which fund it is that we envision helping to pay for that.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year construction plan as written.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes 400. Let's see. In the interest of time, I know that we're quite a ways behind. Can we move the policies, the next 2 policy discussion to our next meeting?
If you want to, there's only 2 of them.
Okay.
It's just a final approval on both.
I can make a motion to approve them. I don't know if somebody,
All right,
if everybody's
second.
ready.
I think so.
All right. Make a
Second.
Motion to approve policies BCAA and BEDA.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion? In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes 400. Any questions on the manifest?
Is that thing?
That's the.
I haven't had a chance to take a look at that yet. So
It's okay, you've got time.
I'll just sleep here tonight.
Welcome
and
to
go through it.
It only needs 3 signatures, and I think there are 3 on it, so you don't have to sign.
Okay.
You can take a
Okay.
look at
I'll
it.
just take a
Yeah,
look.
you're good.
You want it? Okay.
You're
take
good.
that
All
back.
right, I'll be taking a look.
And we can ease you in on that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Is there any public input, Mike?
So let me rejoin the public link. Actually, Patrick Keefe is here and waiting, so I'm going to admit Patrick in. Patrick, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
Excellent. So once again, Patrick, I am at home, but your voice is being heard by everybody back in the meeting room. And so we are now in our second public comment piece. And if you have not been following along, Tina is chairing the meeting and is the new board chair.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm getting a little bit of echo myself.
We can hear.
We hear you good.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to start off with thanking, congratulating and welcoming actually Heidi Ames to being elected to the school board. Congratulations. I look forward to working with you. I wanted to thank also on behalf of the LEA, Liz McDonald for being reelected to the school board. So congratulations, Liz. and also congratulate Tina Harrison for becoming board chair, and Brian Borg for vice chair. And thank you, Brian, for your service as chair. So I was wondering if you guys heard today, DHHS announced that anyone traveling outside of New England, within the United States, upon their return to New Hampshire, do not have to quarantine. So I was wondering about our policy, because I know that we've been a little bit more strict in the DHHS guidelines regarding quarantining after travel and what we are planning on doing. Because a lot of, as you guys noted, district staff, I'm just going to take off my headphones because there's so much echo. Maybe this one. No, sorry, made it a lot worse.
Just so you know, we don't hear anything. Everything's great. We hear you perfectly, I should say. So.
Oh, we don't. Okay, go ahead, Patrick.
I'm just kidding. I don't know what's going on. Just tons of echo. So when we get that second vaccination on April 17th, if you're doing the pod at Litchfield, we're going to go on vacation, and we won't be fully vaccinated when we go on vacation. So when we return on, May 3rd, I assume if we're going by the policy that we're doing now, we're going to have to quarantine. So number one, I'm wondering if we are going to stick with the our policy that we've been doing on quarantining after travel.
Yeah, I think
Well, that's my
that's
main
your question.
So Patrick, I think this is the first time hearing that DHHS has issued been updated guidelines anticipated. I will review those with Holly tomorrow, and we'll make a decision on it.
Yeah.
We've been very closely monitoring the numbers there, and I can tell you that that was another topic that came up in the DOE call with superintendents on Monday. Just the general frustration about not taking a firm stance, but sort of tossing it to districts to interpret and come up with their own local rules. And that's something that the supers as a group are finding frustrating. So we'll definitely review any updated information. Hopefully it's not conflicting as it has been, and that we'll be able to make a firm and clear communication to our staff. And that is our goal, by the way. Our goal is to clearly let everybody know exactly where we stand and what the rules are going to be going forward. So hopefully we can get that accomplished this week.
Thank you, Mike. And if we're still asked to quarantine upon our return to New Hampshire after April break, are we going to be able to teach remotely? Do you know if that would be options for the teachers that will be quarantining?
Yeah, so we'll have to examine that also. I'm hoping that it's as open as you're suggesting, which means the quarantining won't be necessary. But if people do have to quarantine, the problem that we encounter is with staff working remotely while kids are in the building, we end up with a supervision gap that we need to just make sure that we understand and can work our way through. So, but we'll review all of that and make a decision and let everybody know what that decision is.
Great, appreciate it.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Patrick, I'm gonna log you out if you are.
I'm all set.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a great night. Thank you.
You as well.
All right. Anybody else, Mike?
There is nobody else in the call, so I'm
All right.
gonna end it.
Okay. And that brings us into non-public session. Section R, according to RSA 91-A:311 A to C. This, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him, unless the employee affected has the right to a meeting, and 2, request that the meeting be open, in which case the request should not be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. C, matters of which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or the agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. All in favor of going into a non-public?
Yes.
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 All right. We are in non-public. Have a good evening.